I'm Nick Bridle. I'm here to give you an overview on replacement forecasting and planning. What's CAM about? It can calculate life cycles, determine when to replace assets in that life cycle model, help you develop a capital plan, request new and replacement assets. It'll help you manage the purchase of those assets, assemble the assets. If you've got different components, chassis, body, tail lift, etc., you can bring those all into one asset. Obviously, selling and disposal of the assets, and CAM integrates with any fleet maintenance system, not just the AssetWorks suite of products. The product concept, so probably you're spending 25-30% of your fleet budget on replacement assets or capital purchases, and our aim is to integrate our fleet projects with our maintenance and fuel systems, etc., and CAM fits nicely into that area. So, what's CAM about? It does your analytics of your history of your fleet. It will do your planning and budgeting, your procurement of those assets, disposal of the assets, and most importantly is the asset register, the data mart. So all of your current fleet is on that data mart, and all of your historic fleet with your maintenance, fuel, downtime, your operating costs. So the life cycles are calculated through that historic information which we load into the fleet, as well as your current fleet. So four main systems. As I said, it integrates with maintenance, with your ERP for your purchase orders, etc., and your auction system. So we're trying to automate as much of the process as we can. Okay, just breaking that down a little bit more. The functions, so there's 8 functions in CAM. Analyze, forecast and plan is what we're talking about today. Budgets, requests, order, produce and dispose. So we're really looking at economic life cycles, the visualization of that data, and category and asset trends, and I'll touch on categories shortly. Also, you can set baseline capital forecasts, so you can run that forecast for 20 years to see what expenditure you have over a period of time. You can do your capital forecast, and then maintenance costings as well. So for your workshops, if you have in-house workshops, you can work out from an asset category the number of hours you require for the life of that vehicle by year, and that will give you an indication of how many hours you need to maintain that fleet in that workshop. Then you can do your 5-year capital plan. We can run those out for 20 years if required. You can set the replacement priority, and you can then put in your new asset requests. So we currently have circa 200,000 assets on CAM that's using this life cycle information, and some very large customers both in the UK and in the US. This is a life cycle graph which is showing you your cumulative operating costs, maintenance, fuel, etc., and your equivalent annual value over a period of time, is what we're displaying in this graph. So this is done by what we call category of vehicle. So you can set your own category. They're all user defined. You might have light commercial vehicles, heavy commercial vehicles, trailers, medium panel vans, large panel vans, etc. They are like types for costing and for life cycles, and then under that you would have the specifications. The manufacturer's specification would be a Vauxhall Vario, Ford Transit. They would all feed into a category of maybe small panel van, but again we can help you with that setup of that structure and the hierarchy of how you do that. As we move on, a lot of this information we're using industry standard data where we can, so all of the specs, if we can bring in industry standard model information in their codes, electronically we can load all that from the DVLA, we can load it all from the manufacturers, and that saves you having to key it. So this is an example of a life cycle model for a particular asset. We have found most of our customers at the moment are doing most of this on Excel, and I'm not sure whether you've counted, but we found many different Excel sheets that are used to accumulate all this data and do that capital life planning. So what this is telling us is we've got the residual value and annual capital costs, we've got the total operating costs, the equivalency factor, and then we've got the equivalent annual costs. And in this example, you'll see this group of assets, the lowest cost is in year 10, very close is year 9. So you're really, this information for your historic information, you're really squeezing the lemon that little bit more to identify exactly when this type of category is due replacement and what those annual costs are on an annual basis. Now, in some of these areas, like the maintenance costs, we can remove outliers as well. So if someone fits a set of pads at £20 but keys them in at 20,000, that will skew the data. So you can obviously take outliers out, you can run different scenarios on your life cycles, change the labour rates from historic rates to current rates, burden rates, non-burden rates. There's a lot of functionality in there to help you do that. When we're looking at our replacement plans, we're basically saying you can set up age, 96 months, your maintenance costs are $100,000, your distance is 100,000 miles, and those three elements are all user defined. So when you're looking at replacement, this trigger is on one. So when this group of assets get to 96 months, 100,000 maintenance or 100,000 miles, it will trigger a replacement forecast date. You could set that to 2, and it would have to hit 2 of those criteria before it forecasts that replacement date. And then on the bottom half of the grid, we have lease term if it's leased, and your basic replacement costs with a annual inflation factor. So that will then calculate the month that this asset is due replacement, and it will calculate the replacement costs as well. And again, you can move around with these in these guidelines, and you would set that up for each individual category of asset that applies. This plan assumes the assets are all replaced to the current guidelines that you've set in that previous screen. So we've run this out for 10 years. You can see the replacement expenditure and where they peak. So the idea is to try and smooth this capital plan. I'm sure many of you, like some of our customers, will have a backlog. So capital is tight and you've got overdue vehicles, overdue equipment. So when you're talking to board members or senior board members, this is a very good graph that you can show when your capital is going to peak and how you can smooth that plan annually. I know some of your directors may only be around for 3 to 5 years, but it does let them know the impact of their decision making in the past and in the future. Okay, then we can move on to strategic plans. So this is a 3 to 5 year plan, and then you can run annual plans and quarterly plans if necessary. So from your baseline, you can run many scenarios on planning, and then you get into the detail against the individual asset. So this plan shows me the asset number, it shows me the year, make and model, it shows me the using department, the department in your business that's actually using the vehicle. It shows me the plan category, 1322, and it allows me to change that category. So on the replacement, if I want to upsize, I want to downsize, I want to buy a category with lower emissions, I can change the category, which will change the costs. That's all very technical. We've set something up in a system, we've ran the plans, and it's given us a list based on our criteria when these assets need replacing. But now we've moved and we've put some operational scoring information in. So this column here, score, gives you a list of 20 or 30 weighted criteria which you can score and you can weight. So I could have a vehicle check every time it comes in for its inspection every year, and I can operationally say whether that vehicle is in good condition or in poor condition, and I can score and weight it. If it has many visits to the workshops, it's got high maintenance costs, or it keeps coming in, keeps breaking down, I can score and weight that, and that's going to move that up and down the list for that category. I can also look at high accident costs. Now that might be a good thing. If I've just done a major repair on a vehicle or fitted a brand new engine, that might be good. So I might not want to replace that next year. I might want to move it down the list. So we have the calculations from the system, and now we're overlaying operational analysis on top of that to put your scores in. So now we've added the scores and we've got the forecast month and the plan month, we can by category move the vehicles up and down, move the months out based not only on the replacement analysis but on actual operational data as well, which really helps our customers. So if you've got £50 million committed for your capital expenditure next year, but your forecast and backlog is 100 million, you can move this list up and down until you hit 55 million, submit the plan, and it will create requests for all of those assets. If you've got write-offs and things like that, you can also build assets and build write-off plans as well as normal replacement plans, and that all feeds into the information. Thank you.